Keep order, everyone. I'm Mark Skelly, President of the Hutt Chamber of Commerce, and it's my pleasure to welcome you all to our Manufacturers and Technology Forum. The forum is part of our two-week Wellington Business Expo. Can I start by giving a very warm welcome to the Minister of Finance, the Honourable Robertson. Thank you very much, Minister, for joining us this morning in what is probably the busiest week of the busiest year. I can't even begin to imagine when you last slept. We really appreciate your time today and engaging in this forum to hear the voice of our local manufacturing and technology sector. I'd also like to welcome John Allen, CEO of Wellington NZ. Thank you, John, for partnering with us to bring this event together. Also, very much welcome to some other guests we have in the room today. We have Chris Bishop, National MP Hutt South. I saw Chris earlier on somewhere. We have Jenny Anderson, Labor MP Hutt South. Mayor of Hutt Barry, and the CEO of Hutt City Council, Joe Miller. So welcome to you all as well. And we have some very important partners in the room today. A huge part of the success of the Chamber is the ability for us to attract and work with partners in the business community and help us do what we do. Some of the partners we're here today are Link Business Broker, a platinum partner, Petronic Industries, another platinum partner of the Chamber. We have two new gold partners here today. We have 360 Logistics and Recruitment. A44, a new or recent silver partner, and a bronze partner, Red Hot Business, coaching which will be my business. And special welcome, of course, to our panel members. I'm really looking forward to hearing what you have to say today and share and answers to questions from the room. With a little bit of housekeeping before we start, bathrooms are across on your right, should you need those, and in the event of emergency, assembly area is the car park out the front of the building. Of course, if there's a problem. We're very pleased to be able to bring you all together face to face to discuss and prepare for the very important role that manufacturing and technology has to play in our economic recovery. This forum is about bringing you all together to make some new connections and give you all a very loud voice in our economy and with our government. While many industries are systemically damaged by COVID, such as tourism, hospitality and international education, the Hutt Chamber believes there are significant opportunities for the manufacturing and technology sector in our economic recovery. The sector can help us build a new economy that can meet new domestic and international demand and can provide local employment for many. With global supply chains disrupted, economic challenges are expected to endure for several years. There is an opportunity the Chamber is proud to champion. So let me give you a quick outline of how this morning is going to work. Shortly I'll hand across to John Allen, CEO of Wellington NZ, who will share some perspective as our regional economic development agency. John will then introduce the Minister, and from there Helen will introduce the panel and facilitate the session for the morning. We'll then close with lunch and networking together. It's now my pleasure to introduce John Allen, CEO of Wellington NZ.
Kia ora tātou. Thanks, Mark, for the introduction, the opportunity to be here. When you run an economic development agencies, as I have for now 4 months, the question you, particularly after COVID and the disruptions and the challenges that everyone faces, the question you get asked most is, what's the answer? What's the solution? And so I'm pleased to be here because I think the solution's in this room. I think the solution's in this valley. I think the solution's in this region. It's in the hearts, the minds, the spirits, the attitude of the business people of this region. And I think very significantly, it's in manufacturing and technology. So I'm delighted that Grant and Chris and other political candidates are here because I think if we get this sector of our community firing on all cylinders, then we will deliver the jobs, we will deliver the exports, we will deliver the sustainable economy, we will deliver the research and development, we will deliver the society that we need to sustain our future. And I know that we can do that because I know that there are businesses in this room and in this valley that are delivering that right now. And if I just take a couple of very quick examples, I'll start with Hotline Labs. I start with them because you'll have seen them on TV recently. And it's always good to have a television presence to justify a reference. But Hotline Labs, as you know, at the moment, people who grow tomatoes and those sorts of things need CO2 in their glasshouses. As you know, at the moment, they use coal for that, which is not so good in terms of our emissions reductions. And what Hotline have come up with is little lime pellets and biomass from forestry. And the combination of those two produces better quality CO2, better production. They employ PhDs, they engage with Callaghan, they're creating jobs, they're creating money, and they're creating it right here. And that's a fantastic story. Can I just talk about PaySource? You know PaySource, they're the cloud-based payroll company that's in the farming sector. In the hard times, what did they do? They said, we've got a really good idea, we've got a really strong proposition, we're going to make it in the market, we're going to go to the market and raise capital. And they raised $5.8 million around their concept, their product, in April or May this year, which is absolutely amazing. And then Rentacle. I just want to talk about Rentacle initially just for 5 seconds. So they, as you know, they do sanitizer and all those sorts of things. And what they found with lockdown is they couldn't get the stands that were constructed in China to be able to movable sanitizers for people. So what did they do? They looked in the valley for the capability to do that. And they found it in metal art. They found it in powder coating services. It's a big word, I can't get that out there in the morning when you're slightly excited with the mood and the energy in the room. So they found it right here. And the purpose of my mentioning that, just before I introduce Grant, is because of the importance of the local community, the importance of collaboration, and the recognition that we don't need to look offshore all the time for true excellence. So with those introductory remarks about what the solution might be, it's my real privilege and pleasure to introduce Grant Robertson. As you know, he's the Minister of Finance. As you know, he has been navigating these turbulent waters. He's been injecting the money that's come to you through NZTE and come to you through Callaghan. He's charting the course for this nation and its future, and I'm really privileged. It's a pleasure to introduce Grant.
Kia ora, anana hinui ki koutou katoa. Greetings everybody, it's a great pleasure to be out here today. It's especially a pleasure because one of the things that happens in election campaigns is that you spend quite a lot of time talking, and actually today it's an opportunity for me and the other politicians in the room to listen, and I think that's an incredibly important thing when you do a lot of talking. And to be perfectly frank, I'm getting sick of the sound of my own voice at this point in the campaign. Can I also acknowledge our host of the Hutt Chamber of Commerce, Mark and Helen. It's wonderful once again to be with you, and I really want to thank you and congratulate you for the initiative in this. We all know about the Valley and its tech and what's going on here and its manufacturing, and I look along the panel. The only thing I'll say about the panel is we mainly have a conversation about gender equity in the manufacturing sector. But actually what we have up here is a group of incredibly talented and dedicated people who are about making this region and this area the home of manufacturing and technology, and I admire them for what they're doing, and I admire you for putting this on. John, thank you. I would have thought after 4 months, John, you would have had the answer of the solution. That's normally your style, but I'm sure you'll get it done in the second 4 months if you will, of your tenure. But nice to see you here and running the regional economic development agency as well. I want to acknowledge my friend and colleague Ginny Anderson. Ginny's actually the reason I'm here. She put this in my diary and said, I don't care if it's 4 days before the election, you have to come to this event. So Ginny, thank you for doing that. Also Chris Bishop as well, acknowledge you here, and Campbell Barry here as well. It's going to be a partnership that makes this work for this area and this region, and all of central local government and the private sector are critical to making that work. So you all being in the room today is really important. As I say, I do want to mainly listen, and so I'll just make some brief remarks specifically about where I think we are in terms of manufacturing technology and in particular research, and how those things come together and what the government's role is in them. And as I say, I look along the panel and I see kind of all the elements of it are reflected there, and with Sir Neville sitting close to me here at the end, I wanted to start with what I see as the 4 or 5 main elements of making this work. And the first of those is capital. We do need to make sure that there is capital available. Neville's done a fantastic job over many years with Endeavour and other ventures in terms of helping that happen. We have to keep promoting opportunities for not only New Zealand capital to be used, but also foreign capital We need that in the productive sector of our economy, and for too long it's found its way into the speculative part of our economy. The opportunity is now here for that. We saw even during lockdown the likes of Microsoft having the confidence to get the data centre going here in New Zealand. We're getting more and more interest from offshore. NZTA is reflecting that it's in part because of how we've done with COVID, but also a longer term thing, which is about our reputation for ease of doing business. Still number one in the world according to the World Bank for ease of doing business. So the next time you have some trouble with IRD or ACC, just remember we are still number one in the world for ease of doing business. But also the fact that we top the charts for freedom from corruption, according to Transparency International, and now how we've done with COVID as well. It means that we are in a really strong position to be able to go out in the world and seek that investment, and we've got some ideas around an investor attraction strategy we want to roll out over the next few years that leverages off that. But the capital that we've got onshore here is really important too. And in the last couple of budgets, we've looked to increase the government's role in that. So the creation of the Elevate Fund, spun off out from the Super Fund to be able to really get into the Series A, Series B rounds. The New Zealand Green Investment Fund got off to a relatively slow start, but made a couple of investments, and we're looking to partner with others, and Neville will no doubt talk about that. So that availability of capital is essential. There's quite a lot out there in the world, and so we've just got to be harnessing it into this work. Then there's the infrastructure that underpins it, and it is vitally important that we've got that. Now that's everything from access to ultra-fast broadband, to making sure that you've got premises. We've got a big investment that we're making at Gracefield. We want to carry on with that. We want to develop that up through Callaghan and others to be a great place for you to start from. But we also need opportunities for people to be able to expand, and we were just having some conversations about access to the real estate that you need. That's a partnership too, so that's the council along with central government talking about how we make it easier for people to get into the facilities that they need, and so that infrastructure is critically important. A couple of bits where I think the government does need to play a lead role, and we are expanding what we're doing. Firstly, in the availability of skills, the people that you need to make this work. We need to be training them here in New Zealand, and that's sort of the talk about apprenticeships, and we've made those free in the trade training area. Manufacturing is part of that, but we have to keep building on that, encouraging our young people into science, supporting them through research careers, both through being able to fund Blue Skies research, but also supporting just the core on-the-job training that goes with that as well. So a big investment from the government in that, in the budget that we've just seen, and more to come. But also making it easier for you to bring in the skilled staff that you do need. And obviously during COVID there have been some quite big challenges around that, but we're expanding the range and the number of people who can come in to be able to play those significant and critical roles in your businesses. And we know that that will always continue to be part of the mix for us. The other area in that regard is research and development funding, and this has been one of the biggest long-term challenges New Zealand has faced. We've spent less than half of the OECD average on R&D for a couple of decades. We've set ourselves a target of lifting that above the average and beyond, 2% of GDP, and we're well on the way to doing that through the R&D tax credit, the additional funding for Callaghan Innovation, the additional support that's going into targeted research funding, all the way from the agricultural sector through to manufacturing. Governments have got a big job to play there, but so does the private sector. And that's why that partnership again becomes critically important. I just want us to finish on two things to finish. One of my colleagues, Ruth Dyson's favourite saying is finally and in conclusion, because it means you can have two goes at it. So finally and in conclusion. Two things. One is around the importance of the supply chain, which was alluded to already by John. And looking locally for that is important, but looking for opportunities for us to be able to help develop that. And we actually saw this in the film industry as Weta grew and companies spun out of Weta. We're seeing it now with Rocket Lab and companies spinning out of Rocket Lab in the space technology area. People identifying the opportunities to be in that supply chain when you've got some real beachhead companies that are pushing out. And I think looking local for that is important, looking for those opportunities and getting that information from each other, which is what today is obviously about as well. And then finally for me it is around the important role the government has in helping drive industry transformations. And we've done a couple of industry transformation plans. We developed these with Business New Zealand and the Council of Trade Unions. They're based on a Singaporean model. They've done about 20 of them there already. And they are about bringing together all of the people in a sector to plan out 20, 30 and 50 years ahead, and to look at where the high-wage jobs are that we grow and build up what we do well. So the first of those is agri-tech, but actually advanced manufacturing, digital, they're the next ones that we want to get onto as well. And that means hearing from you today. So I know a report's going to come to us, Helen, about what comes out today. I'll be here for a little while longer to be able to listen to the panellists. But we really want to build off that. And you know, there was a competition in our cabinet to be the Minister for Outer Space. But it's real, because New Zealand is now in the space technology business. And it's not just Rocket Lab. We're looking at other launch pads. Down in Christchurch, they're trialling autonomous flying vehicles. Here, people are developing the technology that's going to be driving that supply chain of the space technology area. So at the start, we all laughed too, but actually it's now a critical element of how we grow those high-wage jobs and how we're at the cutting edge. The same applies to the work that's been done here, be it RFID technology, be it the digital, other digital work we're doing with cloud computing, or be it core manufacturing, where we're actually making the widgets and the bits that are so important to drive our industry forward. We have a huge opportunity in New Zealand. We do this work well, this region and this area does this work well, and I look forward to being able to work with you on the future and hear your words today. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, kia kaha, tēnā koutou katoa.
Minister, thank you very much for joining us this morning, and thank you for being involved. And people say ministers won't want to come to speak. It's lovely that you recognise that to a role in listening and hearing the expertise we've got in the room, and expertise not just of the panel but everybody here and their experiences. So really appreciate that, absolutely. So today we have a fabulous panel representing a wide range of businesses. I'll introduce each panel member in turn, and they'll each have 5 minutes to share with you what they're seeing in their industry, the opportunities they see for their sector, and the one idea that their sector needs to help drive our economic recovery and our growth. So we certainly see that the manufacturing sector is key for our future, and not just for the next 6 months, but for the next many years. And we need to start right now understanding what that future looks like and what we can create right here in New Zealand and what we can create right here in this region and in this valley. These people on our panel are people who are well known in their industries, obviously leaders in their industries, and are outspoken often and have clear ideas about things that we can do better. And this is our opportunity to take those ideas and do something with them. And COVID gives us some impetus and some urgency to act, and that is what this is about. Through this year, the COVID crisis in our manufacturing base has proved its ability to adapt quickly to this challenge and our changing environments. During level 4 lockdown this year, many of our local manufacturers changed their production overnight. John, you mentioned metal art, I know Fraser Engineering, and absolutely many companies changed what they were doing overnight just to supply locally and domestically, and they just showed the spirit and the passion that we have in these private businesses, and that's what you need to be successful. You need skill, you need talent, you need capital, you need all those sorts of things. We don't go anywhere without a bit of passion and a little bit of energy and some commitment to doing what's right. And that's what these businesses do, and they demonstrated that well during lockdown, and that's what we need to harness. Right now, there is a huge opportunity for local manufacturers due to COVID, and an area we've not yet considered. And we need to not put these manufacturers in the boxes that we've seen them in the past, but understand the skill and the talent they bring to our whole community and harness that for what they can do for us in the future. These skills may produce products that we may need locally, but they also will be provided nationally and internationally. We have a global opportunity from a manufacturing point of view as well, and that shouldn't be overlooked. We need to earn our export dollars now more than ever. This needs further exploration, and we need to harness these skills and look to our longer term future. More so, we need to harness the local expertise and the potential that exists and rewrite our economic future with manufacturing underpinning this. This sector is also also really important when it comes to employing our young people. And yesterday we hosted over 100 people at the Open Polytechnic. I think there was 75 Year 13 students who were there meeting employers from throughout the region who were really keen to provide immediate opportunities. And over this Expo, we're providing many online videos and live streams, and live stream at 8 o'clock this morning with a rigging company who are keen to get young people into the sector to help build our economy. And the young people are really important to us all, even if we're in very specialised areas that take a few years for people to upskill in. So I don't want to overlook that aspect. So let's kick on with our panel. And so it's an absolute pleasure and an honour to have Sir Neville Jordan with us this morning. Sir Neville Jordan is known to many of you, but it's not until you read his bio you realise just how much Sir Neville has done. I had the pleasure of spending a couple of hours over dinner with you the other evening, and it was a total pleasure. Sir Neville is a Knight Companion of New Zealand Order of Merit. Many of you will have heard of Sir Neville. He's a graduate engineer and has an honorary Doctor of Engineering from Canterbury University. In 1975, he founded the telecommunications company NAS Technology Limited and achieved a successful IPO on the NASDAQ. He later founded Endeavour Capital, which Grant referred to. It is now global operations along with the philanthropic Jordan Foundation. Neville has served on numerous government boards and committees, including Ag Research and the Foundation of Research, Science and Technology. He chaired the New Zealand Government's CRI review panel and also 2 reviews of the ICT industry for the Australian Government. He is past President of the Royal Society of New Zealand, past Chancellor of Victoria University, and he's an honorary Captain of the Royal New Zealand Navy. Numerous recognition awards include Royal Society Thomson Medal, Pickering Medal from Engineering New Zealand, and the UK Kirby Medal. Business awards include Governor General's Supreme Award for Exporting, and he is a laureate of both the Business Hall of Fame and the High Tech Hall of Fame. We are so lucky to have Neville's contribution to our panel, and Neville, it's a total pleasure to introduce you.
Thank you, Helen. Minister, and to Matt, and to the councillors, and to MPs in here, and distinguished guests all, welcome. I have to admit to a certain nervousness standing here and addressing such an august body. In fact, I feel a wee bit like Elizabeth Taylor's 8th husband on their wedding night. In other words, I know what to do here, but how can I make it interesting? So I thought, to make it interesting, maybe in 5 minutes we should have a bit of a gallop through what I call an assay of what we have in the Hutt Valley, both Lower Hutt, Upper Hutt, and then go on to what should we do, or more importantly, what should we not be doing, and then I'll conclude with a couple of observations from past years, which I think will be carried forward. So with that, I did a little research and looked at the panel members for today, and looked at the history of each company, and then how long they'd been in business. And you know, up on the table here, we have companies who aggregate up to about 200 years aggregate of being in business, 200 years. And now do a multiplication. If you say that on average, those companies have employed about 100 people per year over that 50 odd years in business, then you get to a figure of roughly 20,000 man-years of employment here within just a few kilometres of where we are today. And now think of the companies that are represented here, and you can probably multiply that by another 10. So you're looking at roughly 200,000 man-years of effort that's been expended here in the valley in manufacturing and research and development. And that's an extraordinary statistic to think about. And we are the beneficiaries here of all of that expenditure. And what else do we have here? Think about the Gracefield area. We have in Gracefield 2 outposts of Victoria University. We have CRIs here, and we have 2 polytechnics, all based on science or largely based on science and technology. So here's a very rich resource that we need to treasure, we need to husband, and we need to think about how we deploy those resources to the benefit of the country and its population in the future. Then we have to ask the question, having looked at that as an assay, so what do we do? How do we foster, how do we look after this very, very rich resource that we have? I said I would talk about maybe what we should not do. The first thing I think is that what we should not be doing is talking to companies from the position of, we know best, this is what you should be doing. The last thing that companies need is to be told how to run their business. In the past, and many of us have seen this, that we have had a parade of people that I call have never had dirt under their fingernails. Thankfully, that's changing. But we still have this as an endemic part of, unfortunately, bureaucracy that feels that they know best. And actually they don't. But they do know best in terms of policy setting and what seems to make sense in driving the country forward. I thought that in terms of what not to do, think about some of the programs that have been launched, and a wee bit like a firecracker. They have been launched with stars, they've been launched with a big bang, and yet they faded away. Does anyone here remember the Foresight program that was run? How about the Knowledge Wave? And how about 10 by 2010, which was a program set up by the forerunner of NZTE, I think in about 1990 or thereabouts, when 2010 seemed a long way away. And yet 2010 came and went, and we weren't number 10 on the OECD list. So through this, I think one of the things that I think we should be doing is, I call it support the ball carrier. And by supporting the ball carrier, let me give you a little case study here of what happened in Lower Hutt with my own company, Mass Technology. We started off in what is now Radio New Zealand House on the terrace in Wellington, and a tiny office there. Before that, I inveigled myself into my mother's home and took over a spare bedroom for doing some design and manufacturing of electronic equipment at night. So from there to what is now Radio New Zealand House, we took over a floor there and then figured we had to move and get more manufacturing space. So we leased a building in Lower Hutt. I then said to the mayor at the time that here we have this company, Mass Technology, and we're coming to Lower Hutt, and could he give us some help with rates relief, or maybe, if failing that, what about the loan of a truck to bring our equipment to Lower Hutt? So the people at the time said, what were we doing? And we said, well, we had satellite navigation equipment, we were selling battlefield simulation equipment to Chile, to France, and some specialised gear to the US military. At that point, their eyes glazed over, and they said, well, you can't possibly be doing that. So we moved in. So some people here will remember a satellite dish on the corner of Agliomi Street, and that was for the US Federal Emergency Management Agency. And there was a satellite network that we designed and put up around the Pacific. One day we got a call from the council and said, we'd like to come and see you, and I thought, great, they're coming to see what we're doing. 2 people turned up with clipboards, and they said, you don't have enough car parks. Oh. So I spoke to the staff, who were all very creative, and they said, look, what we'll do is get a crane in. So we've got a crane, we've got a mini car, and we hoisted the car in behind the satellite dish, took photographs, sent it to the council, and said, of course we've got enough car parks, and they were very happy. So the company expanded, and about 2 years later, we got another visit from the council to say, we see all the cars there, and we don't think you've got enough toilets. So we hired another, or at least another building in Agley Street that has some more toilets, so that went away. Not once did we have any visits to say, what are you doing? How might we help? Not once. So that's history, of course. But if I could leave the thought with all of those in command here of resources, do support the ball carrier. And what's required for this? Well, I think first and foremost, people with domain knowledge, case managers for particular companies if they're big enough, or if there are groups of companies doing certain manufacturing, then how about a case manager to look after those people to see what kinds of resources they need? They don't always fit the opportunities or the programs that are being offered by people in government. Quite often, you have to behave as the very company themselves. People have to be creative and also to think about what new things can be offered. I think the other thing that's important, have you ever tried going out of your office and calling the office to see what happens? Are you put on hold? Your call is important to us, and you wait 20 minutes or so is not there, and click goes off. So I think the vital thing that's needed for our government institutions, for CRIs, for universities, is a front door. Some years ago I was in Moscow and went past the KGB building. And the KGB building is a very large monolith. And if you look at that building, you can't see any doors. And it's designed like that, of course, for people not to know how to get in. We need the reverse of that. All of our government institutions, all of the support institutions, need a front door. Many of us here have tried to deal with CRIs, with universities. It is really hard to find their front door. So if I could say there's one thing that's needed, is please, can we have a front door? Notice I haven't mentioned capital. The world is awash with capital. There's no shortage of capital. The shortage are the good ideas and the scale in which capital can invest. And quite often, I think in New Zealand, we sell ourselves short on what our science, our technology, our engineering, our companies are really about. What is their real value? And it's not set by some of the penny pinching funders that we have around. It's set on the international stage. And if we think about that, the value of the companies that we have is far greater than we might think. If I conclude with one other thought that came out of a membership that I had some years ago in Helen Clark's government, and she set up what was called a Growth and Innovation Advisory Board. So I was on that panel, and there were some luminaries on that panel, plus me. And so some of the people were talking about productivity. We must have greater productivity. They didn't talk about whether it was people productivity or capital productivity. Everything, we must look at all our programs through this lens of productivity. And so after a while I said, I'm not sure that this is going to resonate with too many people. Yes, Neville, you don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, I convinced them to run a small survey of what productivity meant to the population at large? And the answer came back, productivity means we're working a lot harder, we don't seem to be getting anywhere, we're getting more and more demands on us, but in terms of our family, our welfare, our state of mind, we don't seem to be getting anywhere. So the question arose then, what next? And I said, well, why don't we mount another small research program to see what does resonate? So we did, and the answer came back, personal best. So nobody could argue with personal best, the concept of doing personal best. And Michael Cullen in that year, in his budget address, and the newspaper articles that came out as a result of that budget were very heavy in the communication of the idea of personal best. And I think that that's one thing I could leave here, that this idea of personal best, no matter whether people are PhD scientists or operators of the machine, the idea of all of us trying to do our personal best will propel the country into the future. So I'm very optimistic about what is available and what can be achieved here. And there'll be some scholars here. Is it from Ozymandias who said something like, if you want to know his works, look around. If you want to know about the future of the valley and technology, science, engineering, and what it means to us, look around. There is a great future. Yeah.
Excellent. Really appreciate your insight and sharing it with us and giving us all something to think about. Thanks very much. So now I'm delighted to introduce Martin Simpson, General Manager of Fraser Engineering, a very well-known large-scale manufacturer who the Chamber has worked very closely with through lockdown and subsequently. In fact, it was a discussion that Martin and I had on the phone that created the idea for this forum and made a catalyst for what we're creating today. Martin, can I welcome you to speak?
Welcome, Minister, and all the other important people here from Council and Jenny. And we certainly thank the Chamber for giving us this opportunity to express our optimism for the future. I'm the General Manager and one of the owners of Fraser Engineering. Fraser Engineering had its was a very similar story to Neville's. So it started in John Fraser's workshop in his house, and then eventually they moved to the Hutt Valley, and then he started buying CNC machinery and started manufacturing components for a broad range of people. And in the early days, we actually were producing the BRIS castings for marine systems, and which was an amazing job. John Fraser was one of the first people to virtually write computer-aided manufacturing programs in 3D machining longhand using advanced mathematics. To me, because I was into good maths, this was like, whew, and he was always trying to tell me, saying, this is how you do this is trigonometry, and I'm like, holy shit. And I was thinking, so I bluffed my way through most of it, but eventually, he taught me engineering. And then Raven Fraser came and started working for us, and then she built the systems, and I was the ideas person, so I actually went out to the market and actually found opportunities in '87 where the whole market just was completely wiped out, and we lost all our work, and then I had to set about to figure out how that I could come up with some ideas to bring the work in. So I had a very simple approach to it, was that I needed to actually touch people that, one was in foundries, because that was the foundation of any manufacturing economy, and the other one was the steel suppliers. So I figured out that, well, actually, when we become friends with all the foundries and steel suppliers, I actually could siphon off the work for and rebuild our company. And that started buying out various companies and adding them into our brand. We currently employ 140 staff. Fraser now produces the majority of fire appliances as well as South Australia and the Northern Territory. We produce over 100 appliances a year at the current time. And we are currently in the process of ramping up production because, of course, out of disasters, there's always some good news. So we're looking to double our production capacity up to around about 200 appliances per year. We are approaching 1,000 active appliances in the field at the present moment, so you can imagine that all the support and ongoing work, these vehicles are coming up to 20 years old now, so you've got a lot of new components being built and you've got to maintain. So we've a lot of building our infrastructure around servicing these components. So we've basically managed to retain the foundation skills of a successful manufacturing economy. So aluminium die casting, foundry, that's powder coating, electroplating, upholstery, CNC sheet metal, CNC machining, aluminium stainless steel fabrication, electrical design, and a huge product development. We are the largest SolidWorks user in New Zealand now. We have spent, I can't tell you, it's a nightmare to catch up to the cost of SolidWorks and the system that we run. We have a manufacturing system that is very similar to what BMW uses. We spent probably $500,000, and every part we make, barcode, everybody's signed off, signed on. Our team that we have in that Fraser is amazing, and if you can get everybody working towards one end goal, it is amazing what you can achieve. The point of difference from Fraser from other manufacturers is that we manufacture more components on a fire engine than any other company in the world, and we do that in-house. And of course, it's very green because we don't have trucks running everywhere. We're actually taking the sheet metal part out of the laser cutter, then we're transporting it into the powder coating shop, then we're taking it into assembly. And currently, there's something like about 1.5 million parts being produced in one cycle at the present moment. There are 8 different variants of fire engines in a production line, and there is about 86 in build on the floor right now. Big problem, we've run out of space. So to overcome that issue, we actually have to figure out how to speed up our processes. And to be honest, our staff are our biggest asset. It is amazing what they produce. So we've done the hard yards. We have the vision for what we want to achieve. One day, I hope that I see somebody from government that turns up on my doorstep and asks me what obstacles do I face. Just recently I went on TV and I did an article and I said I could create 1,000 jobs. I didn't see anyone. You know? I saw everybody running around after Rio Tinto going, "Here, come on, we can help you out." I didn't see anybody come knocking on my door. So I believe that there's a lot of work there to be done. We support a large number of manufacturing businesses in the Hutt Valley and the country who supply us with materials and components. But let's not forget the Aussies. You remember them from the weekend. We have a manufacturing and service plant in Adelaide, and we are looking to expand our capability and our jobs in that economy as well. I believe there are more opportunities to be explored with their Australian manufacturing counterparts as they are trying very hard to create an environment similar to us to enable business to thrive. Import replacement is on the rise. We have seen a constant stream of inquiries from imports telling us that their costs have risen exponentially due to the freight, and the lockdown. We can use our capability for import replacement when necessary, in our new COVID environment. Excuse me. Having our supply chain cut due to COVID has given us some nervous moments, and we have been able to minimise the impact by predicting in advance any weaknesses and have put into place measures to minimise this risk. And I can assure you, COVID was a nightmare. I mean, the stress for all the manufacturers, I'm telling you, was trying to figure it out. We worked with the chamber very closely to actually get approval to be an essential supplier. Our Australian counterparts were saying, hey, here us in Australia, we're not stopped. What's your problem? Get going. And I'm going, yeah, no, I'm on it. We're doing it. And we got to clearance and confidence to start up. And I myself bet on not stopping at all. And so it was quite a challenge. We were running around trying to make we working with Flight Plastics, trying to get plastic to design some face masks for the local hospital. And we managed to achieve all that. And with a very skeleton staff, we got back up and running. And then we started. Manufacturers are smart. I mean, we know how to protect ourselves, and we're actually all work in isolation pretty much any day anyway. We actually have separation as a natural part of their job, so it's a fairly easy job to implement and secure what we do. All of us sitting in this room involved in manufacturing have two things in common. We all have a sense of purpose and a passion for what we do, and we believe that there's been a disconnect between consecutive governments in regards to the importance of a strong manufacturing sector, only now highlighted by COVID. I believe the manufacturers have always held the secret to economic success in this country, but more importantly, we hold the secret to social success. We are the engine room of the economy and can no longer be ignored. If you can imagine unleashing the manufacturing sector to train and conduct business in a supportive, positive environment, we could lead the world to creating thousands of new jobs and smart, clean, and leverage off the brand that is New Zealand. If we can expose our young people to opportunities available to them in the manufacturing sector, this would be truly transformational. I have personally given young people that have run off the rails opportunities to learn engineering. If they are placed with mature, positive tradesmen that is proud to share his knowledge, they will pass on a sense of purpose and confidence that is life-changing. And this is reflected in their children and breaks the cycle of poverty. Most importantly, I've discussed recently on TV, we need a Minister of Manufacturing, whose role is to ensure that we have the highest level of representation in government and will fight in our corner to reduce compliance costs and ensure fair trade to enable the most positive outcome for the New Zealand economy, both fiscally and socially. Manufacturers have been doing all the heavy lifting for as long as I can remember. A government that is willing to empower and support this sector will generate the income required to transform this economy and lead the world into a social and sustainable future. Well, that's pretty much me. I'm pretty confident with the potential of the New Zealand manufacturing sector. We have, I'm always amazed when even I walk around the Hutt Valley to see what people really are getting up to and what are doing. And as I say, harness and unleash the potential. So we go here from.
Thank you, Martin. I've had the pleasure after lockdown actually of Martin showing me around his premises. It's absolutely amazing the scale of Fraser engineering now, and the lineup of appliances all in different stages. It's a real sight to behold. So thanks, Martin, for sharing your expertise and perspective. Now, I'm delighted to introduce you to Derek Bradley, CEO of Aurora 44. Many of you may be surprised to know that right here in the Hutt Valley, we are home to this independent game studio. And if you've heard of Ashen, then you'll know Aurora 44, and if you haven't, you're about to find out. Thanks, Derek.
Thank you very much for the warm welcome, and thank you for setting this up. This is absolutely amazing. I don't know if anyone could have anticipated having such a distinguished crowd in the midst of an election directly after this whole COVID thing, so Absolutely amazing platform to be here and to speak to. And really appreciate what you had to say as well, Grant. You know, pretty much to echo almost everything you said to the nth degree is that for video games, I don't really have a lot to add on top of what you said. Having said that though, for video games it's about inclusion. It's about being, like, we're a little bit of a black sheep as an industry, you know, we're artists, we're designers, we're programmers, we do kind of what the film industry does to some degree, we do what software engineers do, and we kind of do what board game designers or something else altogether do as well. And so it's quite hard to categorize us and even kind of know who we are, or the types of R&D funding that we would do is sort of very inherently different. So I really appreciate the opportunity to just present who we are and what we do. So for ourselves though, we make video games, which means that we actually make the software. We make the PlayStation, the Xbox games. We don't really make anything as physical as a lot of the other folks on the panel today, where ours sits a lot more like software development in terms of what it really is. But yeah, I'd be curious to know, as a show of hands, how many people know what Ashen is, or like have seen Ashen? Yes, we got 2, 3, 4. That's excellent. It's actually, I think that's actually a really good result. and I've embedded 2 people in the audience. Please get that about. So I'll start off with some ideas for how I think we can grow the industry and what the key factors for us would be. As I mentioned before, Grant's kind of already said all of this, but more easily bringing in highly skilled, high earners and extreme talent into our industry is huge for us. We've had so many kind of battles with immigration, and I hesitate to call them battles because it's almost like ships in the night, kind of not understanding each other, where explaining what a video game person is and what that role is almost like, well, why don't you just kind of put the job advert out? Surely there's someone who doesn't want to make coffee anymore who can do this. And you're talking about someone who has kind of like 30 years experience doing this thing, extremely specialized, where I imagine honestly hiring a brain surgeon or something like that might be the kind of sliver that you're looking for that would be comparable for a lot of the extremely skilled folks that we deal with. Competing with for large-scale international projects is huge for us, which also goes in tandem with encouraging new investment, which of course other speakers on this panel have also spoken about. A large component of that is mostly just making it a less of a risk for folks who don't, like, you know, New Zealand's perceived as the bottom of the world. Like, where we are, it's a high risk for folks where video games is very much an emergent market worldwide. You have to convince folks who've never dealt with New Zealand that they should take a bet on us and they should do something. So that's a huge element for us. And certainly as well, creating new job opportunities for the youth. For us, it's a huge challenge to hire folks when hardly anyone gets trained in what we need to do within New Zealand. We would love to bring in more of the younger generation into our business, but unfortunately we sort of find that folks who don't have 3 years experience doing this aren't particularly viable, which is largely down to education. So with that as an overall umbrella, the interesting thing about video games is the potential. You know, it's projected that we'll be a $1 billion export industry just within New Zealand within the next 5 years. By world standards, it's still underachieving by a significant degree. I'll go into that a little bit more later. So for right now though, A44 story, so a little bit more about us. We've been able to attract significant offshore investment from a Chinese company named NetEase in 2018. They currently have a market value of around about 100 billion New Zealand dollars. We've grown from 3 staff in 2013 to 35 staff maybe 2 years ago, 70 staff now, so extremely high growth. And we're hoping to be 100 staff by the end of next year for our sort of scale. Our first game, Ashen, was made on a shoestring budget, generated a revenue of 25 million New Zealand dollars, and had well over 2 million people play it. I think this is significant for New Zealand in terms of bring us out on the world stage in that regard, even that those 2 million people, regardless of the money, if we just talk about the social impact of having those things come out of New Zealand, is extremely meaningful. We're currently developing our second video game, which will be ready for commercial release in next year. We build really, it's probably most akin to building like a ship or something like that. We spend 3 to 5 years building a game because we go to the absolute top of what our industry does. And so, we've already had offers on that for around 40 million New Zealand dollars in terms of what it is, and we think we can get more. We haven't accepted any of those offers. It's just, I suppose the reason here is less to blow our own horn and more just to speak of the potential for this industry and how huge that could be. The interesting thing is also we're not, if you notice, making video game out of our basement. We were once upon a time. Like some of the speakers here too. We started off as 3 people in our basement. We're a sophisticated, world-renowned company. We deal with folks like PlayStation, Microsoft, Nintendo, Google. And that's mostly us. So to kind of give you like a broader perspective on the gaming industry in New Zealand, I believe it sort of flies under the radar of folks in central government, and I think it's a very hard industry to define, as I mentioned. The revenue of gaming in New Zealand has more than doubled over the last couple of years. The industry generates over 200 million each year and is growing very quickly. As I mentioned before, easily be $1 billion industry within the next 5 years. 96% of the revenue generated from games is export. So like all that we do these days, we don't even have to physically print anything. You just put it online and it's generating income. The industry created over 150 new jobs in the last year alone. And that recent study also showed that game development is one of the best paid creative occupations in the country. And as I mentioned, we're not an anomaly. Several studios have been attracted investment from folks like Tencent and NetEase. Grinding Gears up in Auckland, for example, sold for over 100 million New Zealand dollars to Tencent, and their game, Path of Exile, is one of the top 10 most played games in the world. And even regardless of that, we're still underperforming, which is an understatement. At a more global scale, the video game industry is worth over $150 billion globally, far larger than the film industry, and I think even if you use the film industry as a litmus test for what games could do in New Zealand, we could be outstripping the film industry by a huge percentage. And a lot of that comes from what video games are. Film is a thing that you can see on your TV that is put in the format of either a film or a TV show, whereas video games are everything around you. It's almost anything you do on your phone, anything you do on a console, and increasingly, people won't even need to own hardware to do it in the future, which has got a lot to do with the sort of internet infrastructure we're coming towards. So it's rapidly evolving, it's so diverse, and hugely significant to every part of our lives. It is actually extremely interesting. I believe that the money, the potential growth of the industry is incomparable to any other industry in New Zealand. Simply because of how far we're underachieving. I apologize in advance for this, but the opportunity to New Zealand is hard. We're even confident that the growth potential in the industry could be big enough to plug the $1 billion hole in Paul Robertson's fiscal plan. Thank you to our CFO for suggesting that joke as well. But I mean, New Zealand can be a world leader in this, just as we are in film. We have the talent, we have the backbone of a highly educated group of people in New Zealand in general. It's just catering it to video games. It's finding an identity for video games and a voice for video games within the central government. I think, in particular, it's good to look overseas for what folks have done, for what could be done. Germany, France, Canada, UK all offer significant tax incentives to video game companies, similar to film grants in New Zealand. Canada offers early stage funding to startups and video game projects. Government assistance to attract large scale projects is extremely significant. Pretty much just in regards to de-risking slightly for folks who don't know who we are. To look to Canada is actually extremely interesting. Our equivalent of the Oscars was pretty much 80% dominated by Canada, and the driving force behind what Canada's been able to do in the video games industry has not come from the private sector. It's come completely from government support and how they've attracted that talent, how they've de-risked the endeavour of making what is essentially an extremely risky long-term investment. Being able to fast-track visas, bring talent into the country is huge. We operate a lot more like a sports team than anything else. We need depth in our bench. We need to be able to grow and slowly evolve into what is a consistent team over time. Folks from the education sector, extremely meaningful as well. Being able to hire graduates who are ready to at least enter the workforce in video games would be extremely meaningful. And as I mentioned, Montreal, for example, has generated thousands of new jobs by offering these sorts of incentives, by making these things a little bit easier for the video games companies. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Derek. I wanted to include the software and IT side of our manufacturing sector. It's really significant, and you may not know, but a lot of the clinical trial software that's being used around the world currently for COVID-19 vaccines and treatments is actually developed right here in the Hutt Valley. So it's a really important sector, the whole software sector. Now, Grant, I understand you need to...
Just negotiate it now. One walk out on
Terry, can I welcome you this morning as well. Terry Carter is General Manager of New Zealand Tube Mills. New Zealand Tube Mills is based at Seaview and is a significant exporter in the horticultural sector. Thank you, Terry.
Minister, great, good to see you here. Thanks for staying. Jenny, Campbell, Chris, thanks for the opportunity to just tell you a little bit about yourself and our business at New Zealand Tube Mills. There'll be some familiar names to a lot of people as I go through a little chat about it. One thing I just found fascinating then, and a lot of people relate here, Ashen, was that the right name? There's a handful of people put their hands up, and clearly there's a lot of baby boomers here. Not sure Chloe's here, but baby boomers do big fruit these days, I find. Hands up who can relate to that. Okay, yeah, so I've got a background in sales and marketing, more than 4 years, predominantly in the steel industry distribution sector, largely always based in Hutt Valley. I joined New Zealand Tube Mills in 2012. The company, and there's some of the names you'll remember, was formerly South of Engineering. Some will recall that name from a while ago. So in South of commenced the business on the site that we're on at Seaview around about 1958. That's probably part of the longevity scenario that you talked about going way back. And Zillian was a similar startup from a garage. I've seen some of the old photos back in pre-war time. We manufacture carbon and stainless steel tube, plus nowadays a lot of trellising, which I'll cover a little bit later. South of Family sold out in 2004 to what I would call just a bunch of Aussies. The Aussies raped and pillaged the business, and they really struggled to pay their bills. And we all know what that's like. If you're a provider or manufacturer, if you can't pay your bills, your suppliers tend to look the other way and generally don't help you. We're now owned since 2011 by a Chicago-based family, 2 brothers and a sister. I meet them once a year. Couldn't this year because of COVID. They were due to meet in March and come out. But they've got a lot of faith in what we do now, and we'll see some good growth. So as we do it, they leave you alone. They've got worldwide business interests, and I know they've definitely been affected by COVID, particularly in the UK and the US. So as long as we keep doing what we're doing, I'm sure we'll be okay. We were originally established as an exhaust system manufacturer for the car industry. It was all domiciled in the Hutt Valley and Greater Wellington. We had Ford and Holman and Mitsubishi, those that remember those, Motor Corp, Honda. The The company peaked in the 80s with about 370 staff. The car industry went into decline in the 90s. A lot of people remember that. A lot of people were in this room were subcontractors to the car industry as well. So it wasn't just the car manufacturers that ended up ceasing, it was that subcontract manufacturers had to look elsewhere and basically reinvent themselves, which is a little bit like what we've done. The automotive division was shut in 2009 and there was a loss of about 250 jobs. You might be the other person remembers the CBU overbridge stacked with workers from the south of the plant and the union were all picketing, and the next day they decided to shut the business. So that's the sign of the times. When I started, we mostly made tubing for third parties, so other people, and we were down to 40 staff. So I walked through the door, and I think I was about the 10th general manager in 3 years. People just couldn't make it go, and staff were basically looking over the shoulder thinking, who's next to go? And I'm sure there's a lot of people here that can relate to what I was just saying now. The hardest thing to do is make one of your co-workers redundant. So I strive on how can I keep employment. That's my number one goal. I should probably have a sign on the door or something like that. But, yeah. Okay, we've always done trellising for kiwi fruit, and then PSA came along in 2011, and that just decimated any activity from the manufacturing. The company has some clever engineers, and those that have employee engineers, Martin, you've got a number of them, you can relate to them, they do think a bit different. I'm a sales guy, but the engineers, like that, 10 steps ahead of you. I can make anything like head engineers says. So they developed a steel vineyard post. Basically, it was to replace CCA treated timber, and we call it eco trolls. You may have seen it. Growth's been exponential. How that came about was two of the engineers were driving up the Hawke's Bay through the old Gimlet gravel area, which people maybe know of, and they saw vineyard worker either loading on or loading off a whole lot of broken timber posts, so they stopped. You and I were just trying to pass, but these engineers are quite curious, see? So, and that's really how it was born out. What's this all about? So, treated timber over a life cycle dries out, and harvesters now, they'll break them off. So, can we make a steel tube just for replacement? And that soon grew into a full-blown system. We've, in addition to sales from New Zealand, we now export eco trolls to Australia and the USA. We've had some selected European countries, a lot of connection to the New Zealand wine industry. People have done internships or off-season work here or whatever. We've sold them to Belgium and Denmark, and you think they don't do wine in those places. Nice wine, maybe. But we've also sold to Russia. We made sure we got the money first. In the last 5 years, so we've had this exponential growth. The first 2 to 3 years were pretty slow. New product and trying to get that across the line, and people that make the product and relate to that. But in the last 5 years, we've made over 3.5 million posts. That would cover about 6,000 hectares, so that's about 20% of Marlborough, so our biggest wine industry, wine area. And end to end, it's about 8,000 kilometres, so you can probably work that out. I think someone said Bluff to Stewart Island 10 times or something like that. I'm a mathematician. We've now got 55 staff. We did peak a couple of years ago at about 65, a lot of temps through the seasonal part. We're all from Christchurch, facility in Melbourne, that we distribute in Australia. Local guy in Adelaide, he used to go to Robertson Valley, so lucky him. Gentleman that's based in California for us, he's our US representative, and plus obviously the factory one. Out of the eco trellis has also come more trellis. So we're now in the space of apple trellising and berry trellising, and that really came about by us being on Google and somebody wanting steel trellis, so Google steel trellis, eco trellis will pop up. And simple phone calls like, do you make this or that, apple, whatever. No, we don't, but we can. And I think we started apple trellis about 3 years ago. And last year, our sales were about 2.5 million. So that's probably nothing. So this is quite a good, be able to reinvent ourselves within a space. But we are riding on the back of kiwi fruit exports, apple exports, wine exports. So we're really in a good space in that sense. We were able to do the apple and berry trellising, particularly because of our investment in a tube laser technology. So we spent 1.8 million on a CEO in Australia, sitting here buying a Lamborghini. It's the largest one of its kind in New Zealand, more by length, and that's actually what it does, because we need to do long lengths for apple trellis, which are pretty cool. There's a big apple right there. We sell all the berry and apple trellising under the eco brands. Everything's got an eco flavour, New Zealand green, etc. We're exporting these to Australia as well, and we've got trials underway in the USA. That's quite good. Exports have gone from about 17% of our total output to over 35% the last 3 years. So you're really focused on the export. We were fortunate enough to be presented by Grant the Wellington Gold Awards in 2019 for export, and we also won the Supreme Award. It was a great night. Little story on that one. The export was on the first one, and the Supreme was at the end of the night. There was a lot of wine drunk. Don't look at that video online. Very pleased. Helen asked me to cover a couple of things. So from an opportunity point of view, the trellis market itself is very seasonal, so it follows the growth. So kiwi fruit grows at a certain time, and then they want to do work at a certain time. So we basically follow pruning. After they prune, that's when our space. We get really busy between typically April, May to September. Madly busy overtime, extra bodies, etc. And then we tend to drop off. That's why we targeted the Northern Hemisphere and getting into the USA, the opposite growing season. We now deal with the #1 wine brand, which is a company called E&J Gallo in the USA, and the #3, which is Constellation of Corona beer people, not the coronavirus people. They've been a bit unfortunate with that name. I'll read that. So, going into the States, when we first started to try and make some inroads there, always got the work sold to. Of course, we've got this new product, but in Australia we're going great things. I remember a gentleman, particularly at Treasury Wines, they're a big player in Australia. They have Martua here, plus a few others, their brands. And he said, oh yeah, well, you can sell them down in Australia, but that's not here in the States. So we back on this tradition thing. So once we got on board with the big players, now we go, they say, well, who can sold to them? We say, oh, Gallo. Straight away Gallo, everyone knows Gallo over there. Oh. So they figured that Gallo had done their due diligence on the product. And that's what we started. So we don't have to go down the track of really, espousing the benefits of our system because someone else has already bought it. That's a quick play. Being in the horticultural sector of trellis is really this growth file that I touched on, so the kiwi fruit, the apple, and the wine, particularly in Australia and New Zealand. Our opportunities to embark more into Europe, Northern Hemisphere again, and we keep innovating because a lot of products we've done recently have been innovation out of some other product. Some of them will remember the little eco sleeve that won our export award at last year's Golds. From an ideas point of view, we promote brand New Zealand like highly. We support our local subcontractors, contractors and suppliers. Richard's sitting to my left down there. They make our little clips for our wires hang on for our posts. We do a lot of subcontracting on galvanisers here, Myriad Engineering does a lot of work for us. Anything we can do to keep local, we'll do. Because when we go overseas particularly, we just say it's brand New Zealand. I had an interesting one the other day, just as an aside. So we were bidding for some work for a large apple grower in Hawke's Bay, and we missed out to an Aussie supplier. And you think, oh, well, see, that's good. And it turns out it just came direct from China. So he was just a middleman. So, I don't have any problem escalating those things to senior levels of companies. And so I'm making this phone call to you. You generally get the salespeople doing the business. But I said, well, I'm here to protect jobs. You keep doing stuff like that, we won't be here to support you. We can do more. So they took it on board, and I think we'll bounce back. So year on year, they'll do more work. So I guess my aim that you run, and I'm sure great minds like you people that sit around these tables, to encourage businesses to buy New Zealand. There's got to be there's been quite a lot of scramble of money going out for all sorts of things. There's possibly some potential in some sort of tax something. I don't know what that means, whether it's partly a GST return that I've bought local, subscribe to that. Because the more that we can support local New Zealand, not necessarily just Hutt Valley, the better off we're all going to be. So, just one other thing, because you asked for this. Export assistance is difficult. Not so much once you get funding or get a pathway, but to work through the layers. A couple of others took on that. So make export and R&D support a bit easier to achieve. Try and cut through some of the tape. And maybe it's to do with values. I don't know, we went for an R&D at Callahan, $100,000 project. I just hate to think of how many man hours it's taken just to get there. No fault, they're working to assistance. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Terry. Thank you, Grant, for staying as long as you possibly could. I know it was longer than you were meant to, so I hope you're not in too much trouble. And thank you, Ginny, as well. And of course, we'll make sure that you hear from the active speakers as well. So, can I introduce you to Richard Hatton, who I've known for a while now, owns Leader, and based out of Hutt here. Richard also sits on the National Executive of Plastics New Zealand. Plastics New Zealand is the industry body that represents plastic manufacturers and suppliers throughout the country, and in that role he is the branch president for the Wellington region.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity to talk today. I thought I'd just start off briefly with Leader. As Helen said, we're a plastics manufacturer based in Hutt. We've been running since 1966, which sort of supports some of the theme that Neville was talking about before about longevity. And my business specialises in manufacturing tubing and piping products for commercial applications. I thought today I would really talk more about the wider plastics industry and its, I suppose, its presence in the Hutt Valley in particular. The plastics sector is obviously a subsector in the manufacturing space, and we are quite a significant contributor to manufacturing across New Zealand. There are around 300 plastics manufacturers up and down the country, and we employ approximately 9,000 people. So that's a lot of meals put on the table every day coming from that plastics sector. At a local level, and I'm talking to south of Palmerston North, there are around 20 operations in the area, and collectively we employ an estimated 400 odd people. We're a particularly unsexy sector. We manufacture what I would call bread and butter products. We're not at that leading edge, but nevertheless we are still a substantial contributor. We have some fantastic examples in our industry at a local level, and I'll go through some of those very, very briefly. I think one of the showpiece businesses we have in the Hutt Valley are our friends at Flight Plastics. They have a great business there with their recycled plant manufacturing PET packaging. We also have seen the development and manufacture of the new Formway novel lifestyle chair, which is made from recycled plastics at a local plant here at Uniclass. That product is now being sold throughout the world. Synapto is another business here over in Gracefield. They've developed an interesting product range for their recycling and rubbish bin clips, again being sold throughout the world, primarily in America, where there's some great opportunity for them. One of the areas that my business participates in, we partner with Hexatronic, a great business over in Aurora. So Hexatronic have built all of the fibre optic ducting for the UFB rollout throughout the country. Hexatronic is an international brand out of Sweden. Great business to deal with, and they have contributed significantly to the infrastructure build in that UFB space. We're seeing some very innovative packaging solutions coming out of the likes of Sealed Air over in Pororua. We've got Encore, which was Demis over in Tawa, and we also have Industrial Mouldings and Seaview pushing out some packaging solutions down there. We have thermoplastic engineering based in Rotorua. They developed some very interesting fume extraction systems that they sell again throughout the world. We have even at local level there up here in Upper Hutt, we have the fencing products that Strangmite, part of Robertson Engineering, manufacturer up there in Upper Hutt. Those guys are going gangbusters at the moment, selling product throughout the world, in particular in the UK and into America. And at a local level, also down in the Hutt, down at Petone, we have some architectural mesh products being manufactured through the likes of cane mail down there. Look, I firmly believe these businesses punch above their weight, and we're very lucky to have them operating in the Wellington sector. There are some real opportunities, I think, for the plastic sector. I think there is opportunities for us in the packaging space. I think there is work for us in the infrastructure space. I think there is also a lot of opportunity in the agri and horticulture space. And an example we have is the work that we do with Terry's team at New Zealand Tube Mills. On a personal level, I'm very confident in the outlook for the sector, to a point that I've recently, in the last 2 or 3 months, purchased another business, which is Pike's, it's now called Pike New Zealand, which is a manufacturing business based in Masterton. It's an injection moulding business that sits alongside my extrusion business in Upper Hutt. We try and work as collaboratively as we can with many businesses in the local region. An example I would point to is the work we're doing with Terry, who keeps us busy with plenty of orders coming through. Helen asked me, I know Grant's moved on, but Helen asked me to come up with an idea what we could, if we had a wand, what we could ask the government for. And I thought about that for a few minutes, and I feel that to be a successful manufacturer today, you've got to be cost efficient, you've got to be innovative, and productivity plays a big part of this, because to survive you have to do a job better than your competitor. In our industry in particular, it's reasonably capital intensive. We have to shell out quite a lot of money for plant, and obviously modern plant and machinery is expensive, and we are somewhat restricted at the moment with depreciation rules, and I believe the government can sort of assist us in this sector. Investment in new plants and equipment can often lead to improved productivity through automation of processes, through less downtime, less wastage, and improved quality. And the benefits of making that investment usually outweigh the costs. Certainly, my time at Leader, when I took over 9-10 years ago, we were working with a plant. It was sort of in the late 90s, we come from the late 1970s, like going back in the time warp. I took it over, and our machines were ancient basically. But in the last few years, we've reinvested and changed all of our plant. We've now got modern plant, and we're getting the benefits from that. So historically, the low value asset threshold for depreciation, in my opinion, has been unrealistically low, sitting at $500. This was recently raised to $500, allowing the business owner to fully deduct the cost of the asset in the year of purchase. However, I see the government is now bringing that back down to $1,000 as of March 17 next year. In my world, that $1,000 write-off is really insufficient. Whilst the change in the threshold has been appreciated, I feel the government, the levels continue to remain unrealistic, and levels of investment that needs to be made for us to remain competitive in that manufacturing space really needs to come up. So as a point of comparison, a number of other countries are encouraging capital spending by allowing larger purchases to be written off for tax purposes. And for example, the USA and Australia have a threshold of $30,000, which this year has been raised to $150,000, and for the 2020 tax year. In my world, that's a more realistic number. So that is my message essentially to the government, is something to be looked at from the appreciation point of view. Really appreciate it. All right, okay, thank you for your time, David.
Thank you, Richard. We'll make sure that that is well heard with government. We are actually recording this, so we'll make sure that Grant gets a copy of exactly what you said, so, and we'll put that in our report as well. And our final member this morning is Shane Lowe from 360 Logistics. 360 Logistics are a new gold partner of the Hutt Valley Chamber. So thank you for supporting us and our work in the local business community. As Mark said at the beginning, our partnerships and our memberships are what fund us. And in a year like this, we appreciate bringing on new partners. It's a great vote of confidence. Thank you, Shane.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, fellow panelists. I wanted to start on something that Martin brought up earlier on. I've got a 16-year-old boy, great kid, but needs to get off the computer every once in a while. Does well at school, is passing everything, but wants to do something with his hands. He's doing the Gateway program. He's been working at Fraser's. He's supposed to do 6 weeks. Loves it so much he's on 9. So, thanks. Oh, cheers. So, who is Shane? I grew up in Palmy, on a dairy farm, and at the age of 16 joined the workforce. Something along there with my son, I think. I've spent 16 years working in domestic transport before running my own business in seafood, retail, wholesale, and export. I sold that and I got back into transport. And I worked for 2.5 years for 360 International. For those who don't know, the transport, logistics and distribution sector in New Zealand generates roughly 15 billion in New Zealand and employs 90,000 people. Now, 360 Logistics are privately owned. We have our roots back to 1963, and we have a client base that's very diverse. We now have 8 branches across New Zealand, in 5 locations with a 60+ team, and a network that covers 192 countries. We look after the importing and exporting for clients with goods from singular cartons, pallets, full containers, and project work such as cranes, helicopters. We also specialise in cross-grade work